So today is the last day of the year 2018. A day meant to reminisce about the year that's been, reflect on the future, reinvest in yourself, and remember those around you. Which is why I'm going to sit in the studio all by myself and continue explaining the detailed production of Strangers Do. So the break of Strangers Do. Production-wise, is pretty simple, but there are a few different things I want to run through in here. It all starts with this reverse into the vocal. It's just something that is instantly recognizable. It has a pretty special character, and I try to always start off my songs with something that stands out a bit in like the first second, so it grabs the attention of the listener ASAP. A good example is my song I Dippy Dip, which has this weird sound right off the bat. What also comes in is this ambient sound that runs through the entire song. It's in the note of D, which isn't the root note, so it acts more as a harmony and gives the song a more melodic feel, and this is how it plays with the bass line. Just makes it more interesting when it's not in the root note. There's also this other ambient thing that runs through the entire song that I spoke of last time, which is this nature sound that I spoke of in the last video that I recorded last summer. And to help with the vibe and ambience are these reverbed out plucks on every 4 bars. In the note of G, to have at least some bass foundation note which runs through and also marks the different sections better. Now, what I think is important to do with the beginnings of songs is to grab the attention super fast. The attention span of a listener is so short. So here I had the vocal like coming in ASAP, saying Strangers Do. And then right into the guitar chords with the bass line being slowly filtered in. It sounds like this. So within 3 seconds of listening to the song, you've heard this very specific reverse vocal effect, the vocal itself, a guitar chord, and the bass line coming in, giving the listener a sense of anticipation of what's to come. I also have the drop melody filtered out in this opening sequence, so that's actually another additional element. It sounds like this. It sounds like this alone. So that's pretty interesting to the ear, plus you get the introduction to the main melody in the drop. So it's more familiar when it finally drops. So all of this has happened within like 10 seconds. And then the verse vocal comes in with the bass line no longer being filtered. So you have the full sound and especially more bass, which alongside with the snaps and claps that come in really sets the groove for the vocal. It sounds like this. The bass line is made up of 2 layers in the plugin Trillion. This is the main layer, and this is the top layer. Now, together they sound like this. Not really that much has been done to them. Processing-wise, they sounded good as they were, which is a bit weird considering that they both have, for instance, bass in them. So I should have processed them individually to fit together, but I don't know why I didn't. It just worked. Oh, and except I have some EQ cuts here and there. And yeah, that's pretty much just small EQ cuts, especially in the low mids, to make them fit better in the mix. To add to the groove, I have them pitching down in some of the notes in between, like this. And to like accentuate these pitch downs to make them stand out more in the mix, I increase the volume when that happens. And I also add this bit crushing plugin called BitSpeak, which adds this distorted effect character, which made it stand out more in the mix. Sounds like this. In the end, I have actually also a reverb coming in slowly. And I also cut out some frequencies to make the transition into the chorus sound more natural. And I also have some reverses into some of the notes of the bass line. Oh, like this. To make it flow better. In the second part of the verse, I add some elements to keep things interesting. I add 2 heavier claps. They sound like this and this on their own, and it just adds a bit more heavy groove. I also add this percussion loop that gave it some more rhythm, and also a shaker loop that did the same thing. And these all continue into the chorus to glue those 2 parts together, because I had some problem with that. I also have this ARP coming in slowly, being less and less filtered and more volume. It continues into the chorus and sounds like this. It just adds some movement to the melodics, as the chords are very slow moving, especially the first chord, which is lasting for 2 bars. So that helped with, yeah, keeping things interesting. There's also this layer of piano playing low, like filtered out in the background, and they're gradually playing heavier and heavier in the chorus, so they're coming in harder and harder. That really helps adding some tension to it and making it sound more full. Since the bass line drops out here, I have a subline coming in to replace it. It has this super slight sidechain. You can barely hear it. It's at 30% of the mix, but it just adds that little feeling of that there is some sidechaining going on, and it connects better with the drop. To also help with making it sound more interesting harmonically is this floating ambient pad thing from a plugin called Soar in FL. It's a plugin that Brooks recommended I should try, and this was literally the first thing I did when I started using it, so it's definitely an underrated plugin. It sounds like this. And I have a reverb on here that is 100% wet to really stand in the background. But I still have this panner tool that pans it around so that your ear picks it up more easily, even though it's still far in the background. So it's more interesting to the ear. I also have a sidechain on it, again, to start giving the listener that sidechain 4-to-the-floor feel into the build-up. Melodically, it starts out just following the bassline root note of the chords, like this and then this, for the first 4 bars. But then, instead of going back down, it continues upwards, and it ends up on the last chord. Just drags on for, yeah, 4 bars into the build, which really builds this anticipation for the drop. I wanted to try and make a build-up for once without heavy snares going up pitched and stuff, so that definitely helped in getting like the tension needed. Other than that, I have this ride pitching up in the background, and also I add this to the vocal to make it sound bigger and more harmonic. It's just vocoded into the chords of the song. The build-up itself is pretty short and without any snares. It's basically relying on this tension that the whole song is ending and holding on to that last chord. It just holds on to this one. And also the vocal repeating, yet I do, for instance. And obviously the effects. For instance, this effect helps a lot. It starts out as a subline and then pitches up into being a riser with reverb and stuff coming on. It's made up of, I think, yeah, it's just a triangle wave from Silent. So it has some harmonics. It's also distorted and phased just slightly to be more interesting, but it's literally just that. So it's still a very pure and fat sound. So it can be really low in the mix, yet take up the space and fill up nicely. Other than that, I have these two that I just love using. These three actually. It sounds like this. I use this in IDP as well, and can be downloaded in the sample pack as always. And this one. These three I always use together. They just work and complement each other really nicely and has solid energy. Last minute before the song was finished, I ended up adding this percussion that pitches up. It sounds like this. It felt too empty without any rhythm element, especially without snares, and any rhythm element that is increasing in rate and pitch, so I ended up sort of cheating in doing that. It's just this percussion, it sounds like this, without effects, but I added a bit crusher to make it sound more weird, and again this 100% reverb. It's a trick I use a lot to make things just stand really in the background, since it has this really hard attack. So it sounds like this. Like almost lost all of its attack. And it pitches up. That's actually it, I think. Please let me know if you have any questions whatsoever and I'll reply to you ASAP. Oh, and then I mastered the song, but I'll cover that in another video. I think it's a whole other subject and it's gonna take a while. So the song was finally finished. To explain how it was signed to AFTR Records, Tiësto's label, I need to rewind back 2 years. Tiësto was just about to embark on his first Northern Lights tour, a tour of several cities in Norway. He loves Norway and he hosted a competition to warm up for him in each city. And I, for some reason, ended up winning the competition for Oslo. At that point, I had already released 2 bootleg remixes of Tiësto's songs. So January the 5th of 2016, I played my first show in Norway, in my hometown Oslo, warming up for Tiësto, the guy responsible for getting me into electronic music at all. That was pretty much the best day of my life up until that point. I actually even brought him some Norwegian chocolate, but I didn't get to meet him and I just gave it to his tour manager to forward it to him. Then 2 years later, he did the same tour early this year. The same day as he was playing in Tromsø, Aden called in the morning asking if Paul and I wanted to join him up there. Up we went and we had dinner with Tiësto, his fiancée and 2 of their friends. We joined him afterwards to the show, he killed it. And after this show we saw like this super beautiful Northern Lights. Actually, it was the first time I'd ever seen it. It just looked so beautiful. What also happened was he gave me his email to send him some music. This was back in January, when I hadn't even started planning my comeback, so it was half a year even before I sent him anything. I sent him Strangers Do and heard nothing back for a few days. This was in the summer, so I thought probably didn't like it, and then suddenly he responded saying he wanted to sign it. As with IDP, I woke up to that message, so that was also an amazing way to wake up. The music video is, as with IDP, made by my best friend Andres and features another one of my best friends, Emilia. I'm so happy with how it all turned out and I'm just so grateful to have such amazing people around me. So this concludes the series of the making of Strangers Do. Let me know what you guys think, which videos you liked more and which ones you liked less, and what you would like more of in the future. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next year.
Keeping us afloat, pains my body as I let you go. Heavy water losing all control.